please do so at this time. And we will give everyone a few minutes to join. 1 or 2 more minutes. We are recording today's session so that we can get that out on our learning management system for you. And then the slides will be on our help desk as well. And we will start at 10:05. I am going through and muting everyone just to let you know. So if you want to speak, you'll have to unmute. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Now, Johnny is having some computer issues, so we're having to punt a little bit. Patty is running the presentation for us today. So please feel free to stop me at any point if you have comments, questions, want to know something, or need more explanation on something, please stop us. This is going to be heavy in admin with some technical stuff sprinkled in, but giving everyone a really good, hopefully, picture on what's going on in weatherization and where we are headed for the rest of the year. All right, so let's go to the first slide. Weatherization averages. This is something that we do want to just highlight. We highlight this every time we have a TA session of where we are as a program. Many of you know, just to do a little bit of a review, that we have gotten started a little late on our formula dollars. We didn't get those dollars released until October because we didn't get our approval from DOE until the end of September. We did have a 90-day no cost extension on our previous grant, so you all didn't really see a pause in funding, so to speak, but we did get a little late start on our grant. Now, with that formula grant, it did retroact back to July 1st. So even though we didn't spend for about 90 days on that grant, we were still responsible for that. It still does end June 30th. So just keep in mind that we are kind of in a tight window on spending. So the calculation to calculate average cost per unit, you take your regular materials and labor plus any vehicles and equipment that you've purchased plus your program support, and you divide that by your number of completions. And that's what gives us our average. So we're going to go to the next slide, and that's going to tell us what our state averages are to date. For our DOE formula grant, our target average is $8,547. For FY25, we ended at $8,355.38. So we were below our average, and we're going to talk about that for a second. We had 355 total completions. Keep in mind we had an extra quarter. So that made our completion totals look a bit higher, which was good because as you can see, we actually started out average cost per unit at $9,249.25. DOE did allow us to reallocate some of our program support dollars to our admin, and we used our admin to cover some of those. And when I say our, it was unused admin at the subgrantee level and unused admin at the KHC level to cover that to get us down below our target number on average cost per unit. So that's how we got there. I don't think that's going to be a remedy for next year. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about average cost per unit today. They are hugely alarming because if you look at our Q2, we only had 10 completions October through the end of December. 10 completions. That's not just for an agency or one subgrantee, that's for the entire network. 10 completions. We are at an average cost per unit of $40,655.27. So this is definitely alarming because we did get a late start on the grant, which I understand that came with its own set of challenges, which is why we only have 10 units. But keep in mind, because we got a late start, we needed to hit the ground running, and we didn't hit the ground running. We hit the ground not as stellar as I would like to see. What that means is that we just have to do better. We're just gonna have to like pump up, notch on work and go get things done. For our DOE IIJA averages, again, this is a target average over 5 years or really 7 years because they have extended our grant. So we don't really have a super great target because that average cost per unit changes every year. So it'll be an average of whatever those 7 years are. We are at 12,330 units is where we ended FY25. That was a June 30th ending with 445 total job completions. For Q1, we ended at 12,657.83. So we went up about $300. We're going in the wrong direction. So that's really not the direction we want to go. We need to go down, not up. Our Q2, we were at 6,054.93. So you can see we went in the good direction. We dropped $3 with 512 total completions. So definitely our completion rate is going up, but we're going to do a lot of analysis for you today and showing you a lot of different screens with some reports so that you can get a good image of where we have to go and what our expectations are. All right, next slide. All right, Johnny Bush, I'm going to let you cover this one.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So what you're seeing on the screen here is a program support expenditures for Q1. That's up until December 31st, 2025. I mean, we only have one agency that was below the ACPU, and this is just program support, which is just half of the piece. So yeah, it's some fairly startling numbers for DOE. LIHEAP is a little better just because, like Kelly said, we had an extra quarter with LIHEAP, so and we didn't have all of our funds with that either. But yeah, so it's better. And then the bill, as you can see, it's even better, but it's for all of the years so far, 4 years, I believe. So, but yeah, we've got quite a bit of looking at and trying to figure out how to get more units completed to bring these averages down. So I don't know what else to say other than they're all really high. And yeah,
it's alarming when program support is this high. We've talked to some other states about their strategies on program support. I'm gonna be honest, you guys won't like them. And it's going to be best if you can figure out how to control these within your own organization right now, instead of us using some of the strategies that other states use to work on program support. But with program support, you can see some of these program support costs are so high that it's going to be really difficult to get your averages down, just based on what material costs are right now, materials and labor costs. So this is a challenge, definitely, something that we want to be for sure is always in your forethoughts, in your minds about where we are as a state and where you are as a subgrantee, that we really have to work on this. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Johnny.
Mhm.
All right, so this slide we've thrown in here to try to give you an image of what's going on. So what you're seeing now is a map that we have highlighted 33 counties in red. These 33 counties had 0 job completions in 2025. So and we listed them out so you can also see the names of the counties. So if you aren't as familiar with your territory, you can find those names pretty quickly. But this, when you have 33 counties without job completions, we have to start thinking along the lines of how do we get those counties served as well. We really wanted to give you this visual image so that I know some of you have expressed concerns about your intake. And trying to get applications from particular counties. This really kind of gives you a good visual image of where you might need some stronger intake workers to pull applications for you so that you can get some applications and some people served in some counties that really do need that service and need this program. So I won't dwell on that. Again, we are recording this session and the slide deck will be out on our help desk. So you can go back and look at this map and figure out where your counties are, and who might not being served. So you can contact those CSBG workers to try to see if you can't get some applications in that area. When we're talking about applications, this idea of weatherization applications, at least getting them, now deeming them eligible, I get is a whole different set of scenario, but getting applications, if they are applying for LIHEAP, they should be eligible for weatherization. So we really do need to figure out how to get that started. And Beth, I see your comment in there. I can have Patty look into that, because she pulled the data out of Hancock. But if some of you see that you had a job completion in a county that we have listed, it could be a problem with a data entry problem that somehow that county didn't get transposed over into Hancock. So, but we can certainly check that. I would start probably, Patty, is it okay if I have them start with you?
Absolutely. And these
Perfect.
are just 2025 numbers. If there was a completion in 2024 or reported in January of 26, obviously that's not included.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So DOE average cost per unit. These are just things that we want to keep in mind when we're trying to look at average cost per unit. And the first one, we looked at current year data. So you need to look at how many units you have to have completed in the year and what do you have to bring your average cost per unit down to the $8,547 by June 30th. So we've done some data. Johnny's going to go over it, but for you as a subgrantee, that's really the first thing you need to figure out is what is my goal number? Because when we do the state plan, we always put in that state plan the number, your production number, and that is calculated based on program operations. So that's your materials and labor and your program support divided by the average cost per unit that year, which is $8,547. So those are some things to keep in mind. For the state, we are supposed to have 302 completions for the year. And again, that average cost per unit is supposed to be below $8,547. Right now we have 10 completions. at 40,000. So we really do have to ramp up that job completion. And the easiest way to get your average cost per unit down is to produce more jobs. Um, so that's really what all of the information on here. So actually, we still need to get $292 units done to hit that 302 production number. Last year we finished at 301. So like that production number is not outside our purview of being able to achieve for the formula grant. It's the average cost per unit that's really going to be a challenge. All right, next slide. And I think this is Johnny. So
Yep.
Johnny has done some calculations and thrown a slide together to try to give you per your agency, so you can see your agency on here, what you actually have to achieve. So Johnny, I'll let you talk about where these numbers came from.
Yeah. So I just took, again, this is looking at December 31st numbers. So nothing that's been billed since, for January or any completions. So what we're looking at is program operations expenditure, number of DOE units completed, the average cost per unit, like this is including program support and, materials, labor, everything to get the average cost per unit. Next slide is, or next column is program operations awarded at the beginning of the grant cycle. The required number of DOE units to be completed based on the DOE state plan. And then what I did was just took, however many units were completed, subtracted that from the required number, and this is how many units that are needing to be completed by the end of the year. Also subtracted how much you've spent in program operations based on what was awarded, so we got the remaining program operations. And then I've calculated the ACPU that can be spent going forward on the remaining completes. So this is based on completing 302 units. So if we don't hit the 302 unit, it goes down. You're going to have less in ACPU to spend. And again, this is program support and materials and labor and any equipment. It's restricting a lot of the, already a pool that was already restricted by a federally required average cost per unit is further restricted just because we got to get our average cost down to that 85.47. So it's a daunting task, but we'll hopefully be able to meet it. We'll see. There's not a lot of time left, and it's going to be a year. I don't know. So yeah, it's the numbers are what they are. I don't know how else to put it. Like I said, if you're not able to get the completions, then we got to look at, lowering the amount that you could spend per unit, just as an agency. So, and then we have a few things we can go over for, ways to think about, I guess, Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah. So can we go back
Patty.
to that slide? Yeah, I'm not quite ready to move on. Thank you. So what Johnny has, again, these are DOE completions. That is the column that is what is in our state plan. So that is the number we are held accountable for. We do understand that number one, you had DOE completions in Q1. They just went towards the old grant. So we understand that. We also understand that you didn't have LIHEAP money to braid. So many of you were out of LIHEAP money the first month. So what happens is your program support goes up hugely on DOE formula. So we certainly are aware and cognizant of some of those challenges with the LIHEAP money, that you just didn't have a lot. And so a lot of you were needing to hold it back. However, you now have a huge amount of LIHEAP money to spend in not as many months as you normally do. So what needs to happen at this point is a lot of these costs need to flow over to LIHEAP, because now we need to spend a lot of LIHEAP money, and this is a great opportunity for you to be able to reduce your expenses on your DOE formula and your DOE IIJA funding and units. But again, the basic premise is you have to, absolutely have to, um, be cognizant that you are doing more units. So there is that. Okay. All right. I think we're ready for the next slide. All right. So ACPU tips and tricks. So here are some things that we have come up with internally of how do we like now take this huge great windfall of LIHEAP money and try to start balancing out those average cost per unit on DOE formula and DOE IIJA. So here's where we're at. So looking at your project completions, we are wanting, and Johnny, I'm going to let you cover some of this and then I'll get the
Yeah.
other piece. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we're asking is to send your estimated project completions for the remainder of the year, WX26 DOE, to WX admin at KY Housing, and to send it to us by next Friday. And so that I'll work on inputting numbers into, the spreadsheet to see where we can, where we think we're going to be at the end of the year, just to try to project to see, how do we not end up in a situation like we did last year, is the biggest thing. Like, we don't want agencies to have to repay dollars. Nobody really wants that. So if we can try to start working on it now, that would be awesome. And, if you can't complete the numbers that were listed on the matrix by June 30th, provide a justification along with the estimate that you think you can do. And these need to be realistic on what can be completed by June 30th. Let's just, do some thinking, figure out what you can do production wise, and just send it in to us, and hopefully we can help, we can help with that, try to figure out things, is our goal.
We simply need to know what to expect for the year. What can you do and what do we need to expect so we can come up with strategies to make sure we're below the ACPU.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next slide. All right. Some more tips. So this one, do more jobs. I keep preaching that. I'm going to continue to preach it. We absolutely have to do more jobs. That is the fastest, quickest way to get your average cost per unit down with the program support costs that we're seeing right now. All right. Be sure, so how do you get more jobs? I know a lot of you, we threw up a map. Some of you are asking to see that map again. We can throw that up at the end of the meeting so you can look at it again. But weatherization ready, we have to use those weatherization ready jobs or funds on deferrals. You have to be able to turn those deferrals into job completions. Take advantage of this. I'm going to talk about some stuff going on congressionally and federally with weatherization ready. It might not always be around. All right. It may not be there. And so we really do have to we really do have to look at deferrals and start using weatherization ready. All right. Braiding LIHEAP and DOE. So we preach that. You guys do a really good job at that. Actually, you braid almost every job. So this is why it's been a bit of a challenge, why I think you've got 10 jobs, because you're so used to being able to braid money that when you can't braid, you get a little in the mindset of I don't know how to continue forward. So, but that is the key here. But here's how the key is going to work. It's not just braiding the dollars, it's being really, really cognizant on how you're braiding the dollars. So from this point forward, what we really need to be focused on is how to use more LIHEAP, how to use less DOE formula and IIJA money. So look at low cost measures, LED bulbs or fixtures, air sealing. Look at things that are not going to cost very much money. Make those your DOE funded measure, and then everything else goes to LIHEAP. That probably needs to be what the strategy is for the next few months. Let LIHEAP absorb most of your program support. So flip that program support over to LIHEAP. And if you don't have direct costs associated with a job, then you shouldn't be billing DOE program support. Here's the bottom line. If you do not have a direct cost, why are we billing program support? So if you didn't have any jobs and you didn't have any jobs in progress, I don't know why we're billing program support. So you can bill admin, but we shouldn't be billing program support if you're not working on jobs. All right. So key takeaway, do more jobs. Let's spend a lot of LIHEAP money and not as much DOE, but here's the kicker. You need to have some DOE money in every single job so we can pull the average cost per unit down. If you do LIHEAP only jobs, we're not going to help our average cost per unit on DOE formula or DOE IIJA. Are there any questions strategy? Okay. All right. Equipment purchases. All right, so this is a little bit, we went over this a little bit last time, but we're still wanted to review this because we went over this because the LIHEAP stuff had changed, but we want to review this again for equipment purchases. For DOE formula, you have a $10,000 limit. You contact KHC if you want to make purchases over 10,000. Vehicles, of course, our vehicles are going to be super expensive. You always need to contact us for those, but equipment over $10,000 for DOE formula purchases, you need to contact KHC. If it is a DOE equipment purchase that's an IIJA or bill purchase, that limit is $5,000. You're asking, why is it different? It is different based on the year that the funding came to us and based on what 2 CFR 200 practice was in place. So unfortunately, because our IIJA it was funded in 2021, we received it in 2022, it was under old rules for 2 CFR 200. And our DOE formula, while was funded this year, is under new rules. Two different purchase limits. LIHEAP has a different purchase equipment rule, and that is governed by the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Even though it's federal money, they can be stricter on their policy, and they are choosing that route. So there is a $500 limit. So if you want to make an equipment purchase with LIHEAP funding over $500, you have to request permission from us. We actually have to submit that to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services to get permission from them for you to purchase the equipment. So I just want to put all of that out there, that's the rules on equipment purchases. Are there any questions or concerns about that? I have a lot of concerns, especially on LIHEAP, but I can't go into that today because for Lent, I decided to be positive, not negative. So I'm giving up negativity. So that is why you see a really super cheerful Kelly today.
I'd like to also point out on the LIHEAP limit, the cabinet also wants to do the disposal themselves. So if you have computers, printers, anything over $500, they want to do the disposal. So we'll probably need paperwork on that as well.
Yeah, they're actually going to physically come to your location and take your computer. Okay, great. Okay, complaint process. We are seeing a little bit of an elevated client complaints. So just wanted to be sure we're doing the complaint process. We just want to keep it like clear in everybody's mind. But one thing that we think would help with client complaints is be sure you're doing some really good client communication and client education. When your auditors are going out, your D&Es, your energy auditors are going out and doing the energy audit, I know they're going over a lot of brochures and a lot of pamphlets, a lot of flyers. You also be sure they're going over the audit of what the person is going to get as a weatherization measure. We need to be really clear about that. What we are hearing when we get to the complaints is that we were told we were going to get a new heat pump and we didn't get a new heat pump. Okay, I think they are being told that very early on in the process, and then they are never educated in that evaluation process of what they're actually going to get and why. So we want to be really clear about what those measures are, what they achieve, and give them an opportunity to ask questions like, why am I not getting new windows? So that you can explain that. But really good communication and a really good, strong client education at the energy evaluation will help alleviate a lot of the complaints we are starting to see. But if you do still having a complaint, okay. If you do still having a complaint, be sure that they're giving a complaint to you in writing, and then you go through your internal dispute resolution. So you should have a policy, follow your policy. We also have a policy, but the policy is that you do your policy first and work on that complaint. If the client is still not satisfied and they still have a reason for complaint, they need to put that in writing to us, and we will at that point take over that complaint process. And it could happen, they could send the complaint to you for you to forward to us, or they can make it directly to us, but that complaint process needs to come to us. And you need to be sure that they understand what that complaint process is. I know that's sticky, and why do we want to tell people that they have a right to complain? But they do have a right to ask questions, and they have a right to advocate for themselves, and you need to be sure that they understand what that looks like. And just be sure that you're watching what is told to them throughout the process, because that is somewhat of what we're seeing in these client complaints. Well, I thought I was going to get new windows. They told me in the beginning I'd get new windows. All right, look, I don't think anybody in this weatherization program is telling anybody that they're going to get new windows. I don't think that's it at all. What I think is happening is that perhaps is being a myth that and some information that's perhaps being told to them at intake, or hey, let's get an application for this. And that's just not what's happening, but that's what they still have in their mind. So just clear communication and education is going to help a lot with this, I think. All right. And I know people are dropping things in the chat. It's really hard for me to watch the chat as well. So we'll come back to all of that stuff at the end. Okay, the LIHEAP SIR. So just reminder to you that we raised the LIHEAP SIR to a 1.0. So you do have to have a measure 1.0 and a package 1.0 for LIHEAP as well. That was to save some of our LIHEAP money, particularly because we were seeing a lot of use on it in those measures below a 1.0, but what was happening is we're then running out of LIHEAP dollars to braid in these DOEs. So we want to be sure that you have good access to LIHEAP dollars to braid into those DOE measures. So we're now following the DOE rules on the SIR. Questions about that? That shouldn't be new news to anyone because we've had that in place for a few months. All right. All right, so now we're turning it over to our tech team from the training center, and they're gonna go over a few things for you as well. All right, next slide.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Just a quick update from the technical side of things. We do have our January through June schedule set. I'm really pleased so far through January and February because We've had some pretty good turnouts in our LED classes and CAS classes. We have crew leader coming up. We have people registered for some upcoming classes, so that's really good. If there's anything out there that you need as far as courses you'd like to see or might need, please reach out to either myself or to Chase, or even your monitor. That's fine too. We will probably start our July through December schedule planning, probably May, first week or so of May. So if there's things that you know that you'll need, like early July, you have somebody who wants to go through EA, or you need a D&E training, please just reach out and let us know, because that's the main thing that we take into consideration. Otherwise, we just kind of base it on the last time we offered and the number of students that we had in. We mentioned this the last quarterly meeting that we had. We did some serious evaluation of the D&E course. It is 3 weeks long, and the first week was virtual. In our internal discussions, we come to realize that first week of virtual didn't seem to be very productive. There was some just a lot of dead time trying to get people to participate. And so we thought it best to move that first week back to in person. We think that will be a much better experience for everyone, for your employees that come in, for the instructors, and just think that's the best route to go. So we will start that with our next class, and the next class starts on March 9th. So if you have people in that D&E course, please make them aware that they'll be at the center for that first week. And then we wanted to add in, if you haven't seen it, the National Home Performance Conference and Trade Show, NHPC. It is in Columbus this year. They released the agenda a few weeks ago, and after review, it looks like they have a really good program set up. Lots of different sessions. Most of our staff will be going. We're just kind of waiting for our out-of-state travel to come back, so we can go ahead and get booked up. But they have quite a few good tracks. If you're interested, if you don't get the information from from BPA, please let me know. Just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to forward the information to you. Like I say, hey, Mark, send me information on the conference, and I'll send you anything that you need if you're interested. But like I say, it looks like it's going to be really good, relatively close. So we thought we'd throw it out there just in case y'all want to take advantage of some what looks like some really good training. Next slide.
Mark, we also have a question from Chris Childers. Will you be restarting the monthly EA QCI call?
So Chris, here's what we came to on that. We had those calls set up in the morning at 11 o'clock. We reached out because we wasn't having real good attendance, and decided that based on the feedback we received, that if we switched it to 4, we'd probably get better attendance. So we switched it to 4. Well, then we had meeting after meeting after meeting, month after month after month, and we had 2 or 3 people show up, maybe 4 or 5, and nobody ever said anything. We would sit there, there'd be dead air, no questions, no concerns, maybe the same person each month. So, I mean, I'm just going to say it like it is. We just kind of figured that it was a waste of time. And so we discontinued them. Now, if we think that maybe, we could get some good participation, we'd have people that actually would attend and participate, I would not have a problem starting it. But, I don't see the point in starting something for 5 of our guys to be sitting there listening to dead air, and then 20 minutes later we say, okay, I guess there's nothing. See y'all. So, if it proves to be beneficial, I say we start it back. But until somebody can tell me that it's going to be, to me, it was just something to have on the calendar.
Understand. Maybe something, can chat more with your trainings and stuff. See if anybody wants to jump into that. I don't know.
Next slide.
Johnny Luckenbill is feeling a little under the weather, so I was going to chat about the deferrals a little bit. So, this is just a slide just showing what deferral issues we see most often, what y'all could be seeing when you're out there, just highlighting some of the, mold and moisture issues, unsafe structures, hoarding, the job is too costly and outside of the scope of WX. And, these are just things to keep in mind when you're out doing your audits and initial evaluations of the homes. And yeah, if you don't care to go to the next slide, Patty. So this is where you can find information in our WXPM on deferrals and measure skipping. Kind of those two kind of go hand in hand sometimes, especially when your projects are, too expensive. What I had in here originally too was I'm working on a sheet that I'm hoping that'll help with deferrals when you're out, in the field and stuff. So hopefully I can have that done by our next quarterly meeting, but just to stay tuned for that, and we'll we'll get that out, and hopefully it helps, just answers questions that we've gotten as far as like directors wanting more documentation and stuff like that for deferrals. And so hopefully we can get that and be able to help you guys out with that. And yeah, so but just be sure you're looking at chapter 10 for deferrals and weatherization ready, and chapter 11.5 and for measure skipping. Go ahead to, yep. Just health and safety issues. If it's not an immediate health and safety issue for the home, it doesn't have to be brought up to code. It's something that we talked about last time, and just wanted to reiterate that again, that if it's not an immediate health and safety issue, then we don't have to fix that problem. We can spend the money on other things. Just something else to keep in mind when you're out there. And then also just bringing up the request to exceed.
Let me ask this.
Okay, what have I got here?
If the 2-day preschool folks ask for home-based as well, are they able to be in both programs?
Do what? I'm sorry. I think you may just be unmuted talking on the phone.
If you follow where I'm going.
I do. I understand it's duplication of services too. I guess I don't know what the preschool
I'm going to
days
mute
look
this,
like from a
Kelly.
service perspective.
Yeah, I was just going over here to mute it.
Sorry, that threw me for a little bit of a loop.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I had everyone muted.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, on the request to exceed, just to make sure that you're submitting the request to exceed prior to the work starting. If you fail to do that, it could result in the WX 910 being denied at the end of the project. And just reminding you that new 910s will be requested if the cost is exceeding 10% of the original request, or if the scope of work changes. And then we also recently had PN 01-2026. Kelly, you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, so the public notice, and you'll see me looking away. I'm literally looking at the PN because I want to be sure that we go over this pretty strictly. So the public notice that we issued this week on the request to exceed is really to help you have a little less paperwork. So this is for your LIHEAP funding. So keep in mind, what have we just told you? We just said, hey, use more of your LIHEAP money, use less DOE formula and IIJA because we're trying to balance the average cost per unit. So what that means is that your total jobs are going to probably exceed the $8,547 that we would want in place for the request to exceed, right? So for LIHEAP funds only, this is not for DOE. It's not for formula or IIJA. It is for LIHEAP funds only. We are going to allow you on regular weatherization costs to go up to $17,000 without having to do a request to exceed. That is essentially what this PN is for. You still have to do it for health and safety costs of $4,000. It does not get rid of that because that is different. That is not impacting our average cost per unit. We are doing this only for LIHEAP money and for regular weatherization measures that exceed $17,000 is when you would have to do a request to exceed for LIHEAP funding. That is so that you can push a lot of your expenses on those jobs for regular materials and labor over to LIHEAP and not have to trigger the request to exceed policy. Do I have any questions on that? Just unmute yourself if you've got a question. Because I want to be
Kelly,
very clear. Yes.
does the job have to, the whole job, like DOE and everything, does it have to be below 17,000 or can it be more?
Yes. So the whole job could be, that's a great question. Let me think about this. The whole job could be over 17,000 if it's got DOE money in it. We are just asking you to do a request to exceed if your DOE is over the average cost per unit, or if your LIHEAP funds total over $17,000.
Okay, thank you.
And then the health and safety one would still apply, right, for both
The
funding?
health and safety still applies. If you are over $4,000 in DOE funding or $4,000 in LIHEAP funding, you still have to do a request to exceed on health and safety. Okay. All right. We kept the BABA flow chart in here just to keep this fresh in everybody's minds about what triggers BABA. And the reason we chose to do this is when Patty and I were at NASCAS a couple weeks ago, we actually worked with a subgrantee out of another state that did not realize they had triggered BABA. They thought they were okay because they were not multifamily units, but they were still owned by PHA. So I just wanted to go over this again, that BABA requirement. You need to really follow this flow chart. It's super helpful for this. What type of entity is the prime recipient? So if you have Sally Sue, who rents a house from Timmy Tom, then they wouldn't trigger BABA because so let's go through that. Sally Sue renting a house from Timmy Tom. What type of entity is the primary recipient? Well, that's Sally Sue, right? She is a person. So she does not trigger BABA. Let's do a little spin on it. Let's look at if it is Versailles Housing Authority and they've got a single family unit. I don't even think they own single family units, but I'm just going to use this for an example because I live in Versailles. So we got Versailles Housing Authority. They have a single family unit that they rent out. They would like weatherization done in it. Okay, so what entity is the prime recipient? They technically are government. So we're going to go down the flow chart to the blue box. Does the project involve construction, alteration, maintenance, repair, or infrastructure? Yes. Even though these are retrofits, they still consider them repairs. So the answer is yes. Is the infrastructure in question publicly owned or primarily used for a public purpose? It is publicly owned because it's owned by the Versailles a housing authority. So the answer is yes, so BABA applies. So that's kind of how you use that flow chart. All right. So let's just go to, let's say you had units that were owned by, I'm trying to think of a nonprofit, by, I don't know, let's say Bluegrass Community Action had some multifamily units that they owned that they wanted weatherization in. So what type of entity? It's a nonprofit. Okay. So we're going to go down to the blue box. Does the project include construction, alteration, maintenance, repair of infrastructure? The answer is yes. So we got the purple box. Is the infrastructure in question publicly owned or primarily utilized for a public purpose? Well, let's say they're just the multifamily units that they own, and there's no like grocery store in them, there's no medical clinic, there's nothing where the public actually just, it's open to the public, then the BABA does not apply. So I hope that helps you figure that flow chart out. But be sure to revisit this if you have something that you think could trigger BABA, or call us. Best thing is to call us and talk to us. All right, next slide. Multifamily units, 5 units or more. I know a lot of you have asked us about doing multifamily. Just an FYI, on our multifamily update, we do now, all of our trainers and technical monitors have a multifamily building analyst certification through BPI. So they are nationally certified for multifamily now. So just an FYI on that. Congratulations to all of them. They all finished and completed that last week. So we do have that in our coffers now, and we are working on getting a multifamily training together. But these criteria are going to stick. And this is not to punish you. This is to make sure that we are still achieving all of the goals of the program, which are we have to do single family. We are watching a lot of things from a really statewide purview. It's not just agency by agency, but it is really this capacity of our statewide program and making sure that counties get served. Is we also have to make sure that if you are working with sister agencies and pulling resources, we can't take resources away from any territory. So that's what these criteria are really designed to do in order to consider, could you start a multifamily project? So you have to have an in-house energy auditor and or QCI, but if you contract with a QCI, they have to have multifamily weatherization experience. And we're not talking about experience from ARA days, because that was way long ago, and so much has changed in multifamily that we can't really use that experience. You need to be scoring low risk to low to medium risk on our KHC risk assessments. If you do not know where you have scored, then contact us and we'll let you know. You need to display a history of submitting your invoices every 60 days. That is in your contracts. So all we are simply doing is making sure that you are adhering to everything in your current contract, and that you are achieving what's in your current contract in order to pursue multifamily. Because you know what, multifamily, it's just different. It's not necessarily more complicated, yet it is. Could just talk to multi-purpose about that it can be a little bit challenging at times, but that's it. It can be challenging at times. And so we need to know that you are meeting all the aspects of your contract before you pursue multifamily. You're not to exceed 3 regular weatherization findings and no health and safety findings on your most recent technical monitoring. We want to be sure that you're doing some really stellar technical work before you start going into multifamily units, because they are a little bit more complicated, a little bit more things you have to be able to do and acknowledge. And there are different electrical systems, and so it's just different, quite honestly. You can't exceed 1 finding on your most recent IIJA financial monitoring, admin financial monitoring. And here's why, because you're using IIJA money to do multifamily. So we want to be sure that you're not having any kind of findings in that arena as well. Possess an in-house weatherization director or at least some dedicated staff to weatherization. That's hugely important. I think multi-purpose, and Marcia, you can chime in on this, but I think you all had like 3 staff working on that, sometimes 12-hour days, to make sure that that project was successful. And I see you came off mute, Marcia, so I'll let you chime in.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a big undertaking, especially being our first project and so big. But we did have dedicated staff, sometimes even beyond what we planned. So it's a big undertaking for sure.
Yeah, it's all hands on deck for sure. All right, and then the public notice is available on our partner portal that has more description on these, but we just wanted to highlight this. All right, on to the next slide, because I think there's more multifamily stuff. So multifamily priority list. So we've been working for a while to try to figure out how to do a low-rise priority list, to help with the multifamily aspects so that you wouldn't always have to learn that trait modeling if you wanted to do something that's 3 stories or less. So we were able to get that submitted February 11th. And really the huge hiccup was that we had to have processes. We had to have like a procedures manual for how to use that priority list. So that's what we've been working on. But we were able to get that submitted to DOE on February 11th. So now they are in process of reviewing that. It's the project officer. So that's where that is. That review. So what that is it's kind of like a punch out list. If you've ever done construction, it is, okay, we're going to go into this building that's less than 3 stories. We do not have to do an energy audit because what we're going to do is we're going to use this low rise priority list that KHC has approved. And these are the things on this checklist that we have to put in. So that's what that list is for. You still have to recognize health and safety. You still have to do an evaluation on it. So you know what you're dealing with and you know what materials you're going to have to use because you still have to do work orders. You still have to bid those jobs out if you're using contractors. But it should make it easier because you don't have to do energy modeling on it per se. So it's pretty, that is in the coffers. We will keep you posted as we know more and as that gets approved. The criteria in the PN will still stick. So even to do low rise priority list, you still kind of have to have those criteria in place. But it opened it up a little bit to make this multifamily idea a little bit easier for some of you. All right. Any questions about that before we go to Ellery? All right, Ellery, you're on, I think.
All right, good morning, everybody. I just have some quick little nuggets of information, maybe some suggestions. So among Gen Z, Millennial, and Gen X, Indeed is the top search destination for jobs. So you can always post your jobs to Indeed. And then for Millennials and Gen X, the top social media is Facebook. And Facebook groups are a great way to connect people to jobs. Almost every community has a Facebook group. I know, like, for example, in Murray, the Facebook group is like, what's happening in Murray, Cowley County? And pretty much every community has one, and people are always looking for jobs. And so that might be a great place to post your jobs. And then I know a lot of people utilize Handshake. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we are thinking about ways that we can connect Green Workforce Connect and Handshake together to kind of make that process maybe a little bit easier for you all. So if you have any questions or need anything from me, just let me know.
All right, any questions for Ellery? So I just want to say on the point for her top social media, Facebook, one of the things that we heard at NASCAS that came from contractors, they did a focus NREL, so let me back up. No, IREC. IREC did focus groups with contractors, and the contractors go to Facebook to find jobs. So what they're doing, they're looking in community groups to find jobs. So just an FYI, that might be a good place for you, one, to advertise your jobs or in those community groups, but two, advertise if you need contractors, because those contractors report it, that's where they go. So for example, for sales, we have all these community groups. We have the For Sale, the Whitford County Online, Yard Sale Online group. We have Voices of For Sales, and we have Voices of For Sales 2, TOO. But you could go into that community group and post, hey, we're looking for electrical contractors for some weatherization projects. Please contact. So that might be a good place to start looking for some contractors that you might open up some opportunities. So that's why Ellery's got that down. So I think it was a kind of a big red or a big light bulb for me. Okay. Okay, just to reiterate, optional budget categories, we are using those in the DOE formula contract. So for this year, so please, this is not a choice. This is a mandate. It is in our state plan, so we must use it. So be sure you are using those. They are not available for IIJA yet. We cannot get those until we go in for a revision on our contract. So I'll talk a little bit about that revision on our contract. That we'll get through the optional categories and then I'll talk about it. How's that? All right, next slide. The optional categories are intake, energy audit, inspections. Again, you can only use these for DOE formula jobs. Intake, those of you that asked for intake money, you got intake money and you got what you were asking for. If you didn't ask me for intake money, but you want it for next year, go ahead and get those requests in. Johnny's going to talk a little bit about some things later on for that money, and we're going to go over that state plan. So be sure you're emailing me and letting me know. Those are not optional for IIJA. I'm not sure what slide is next. Okay, state plan. So let's talk IIJA for just a hot minute. IIJA, here's where we're at. So we're going to do some rethinking a little bit. We're going to do some rethinking on how that money is deployed to you and allocated to you. Some of you are not using it. And so because you're not using it, we at this point have to rethink it. To just give you an image, I know we've got some new EDs on here. So I want to give you some really good image of what happened with IIJA. IIJA went into effect July 1, 2021. We didn't get the money. We didn't get our state plan approved until April 2022. So you didn't really see, you got some like pre-award letters that you could do some jobs, but really you didn't see a bulk of that money until after April 2022. However, originally that grant ended in 2027, June 30th, 2027. We are in 2026. Now, DOE last November, November 2024, they extended it 2 years, so it's not up until 2029. But we just have 3 years left to spend it. Okay, so we roughly have had 3.5 years to spend, and we now have 3 years left. So we're right in the middle. Now, theoretically, right in the middle, we should be at what? A 50% spend rate. We are at a 20% spend rate. In order to get access to all of the money, we have to have expended 30% of the funds. We're at 20%. So we're getting close to the benchmark on expenditures to access all of the funding. However, we also have to be at 30% of the benchmark. Our benchmark is 30% job production. This is where we run into problems. So to be at 30% for job production, we need to have 1,173 units finished. We are at 512 units. So we still need 600 units. So we are going to have to figure out how to get that and make that better. So I just wanted to give you an idea on IIJA. Until we meet that 30% benchmark, we cannot go in and do a revision with DOE on that grant to get those optional categories in. So it is hugely important that we produce jobs in IIJA, because here's the problem. We are almost at the spend rate and the benchmark. We are not close to the benchmark for job production. So we are definitely out of whack on that. So we are going to have to figure that out. So just know that we are going to take some steps in trying to get a better grasp on job production and get some jobs produced. We're going to be putting some pressure on some different subgrantees to help us with that. And I'm hoping that they will accept the challenge that I'm going to give to them. But understand that also means that some of you then, we are going to expect you to produce more formula jobs. So I guess if there were a theme to this TA session, the theme is job production. Which brings us to the state plan discussion. So we started our state plan for our new formula money. Let's review. Was approved at end of September. We were able to get those dollars out to you in October. So we started the new formula allocation in October, but it actually retroacts to July 1. It ends June 30th, 2026. Here's what it got you. We have an average cost per unit of $8,547. We were able to get approved a 17% health and safety rate. So understand that we now have a higher health and safety average, which is really, really good. We did that to give you a little bit of grace in your LIHEAP funding, because you were using a lot of your LIHEAP funding to pull up that health and to balance that health and safety average. Now you can use more DOE and health and safety. It doesn't affect your average cost per unit. You can use less in LIHEAP so that you can use more LIHEAP for regular materials, labor, and program support. So we did that to try to help. We are starting the state plan process for the next year, with the understanding that DOE has released no guidance. So we do not know when that state plan is due. We do not have any guidance from DOE. The money has been appropriated by Congress, so we have been sure to thank them when we meet with them, that we appreciate. From NASCA's point of view, NASCAS is thanking every congressman that they meet with for passing the appropriations. It also appropriated money for Weatherization Ready, so that you can continue the good work. And so let me give you an image while I'm talking about Weatherization Ready of what that meant. In the last program year, there were 65 jobs that were Weatherization Ready jobs. Some of them were IIJA and some of them were formula, but that is 65 more unit completions that we were able to do as a network because of Weatherization Ready. So Weatherization Ready makes a difference. It makes a difference when you use it. Do not hesitate to use it, right? Okay, so having said that, we have no guidance for this year's formula money for a state plan. We are proceeding ahead with our typical timeline. We are proceeding ahead as if that state plan is still due the first week of May. So we are planning. We are going to start working on our revisions. We plan to hold a public hearing mid-April. We plan to have documents out the 1st of April. We're still along the same timeline. And Johnny's going to talk to you a little bit about that in the next, in some later slides. But I want you to understand we are sticking to the timeline that we most normally have. What that's going to look like, I don't know. It could be that DOE releases the guidance next week and they have us on that timeline. It could be that we don't have that guidance the 1st of May. And so I am giving you the best knowledge I have is this is what we are doing is we are proceeding ahead as if we're on the same timeline and is as if everything will remain the same. It's the best I have. Can I do a budget? I can't really do a budget without knowing what we're going to be allocated or what we're told to do. Normally, if they don't have a budget approved by now, they just say use what you did last year. We actually have a budget approved, but DOE hasn't done our formula yet. So there are a lot of things up in the air about this. So we're proceeding ahead with things as is. One thing that we are going to put in the state plan is that we're going to start piloting some contractor price listing. So what this would do, and I don't know exactly what this would look like, but it's something that other states do. Some other states do it. I've been intrigued by it because it would get you out of having to bid every job. So it would be literally doing a contract with a contractor where they have a price list on their materials and labor, and that's what they stick to. So when you get your energy audit finished, instead of having to send that out for bid, and so then you're having to wait 14 days for it to bid, you have a contractor price list that you're going to give job A to this contractor, you're going to give job B to this contractor, you're going to give job C to this contractor, and they just go do the work and then bill you for it within the confines of that price list that they agreed upon. So that's what we're going to start piloting. We're going to put some language in the state plan so that we can do that, because that is a model that I think would, one, get jobs done faster because you don't have to wait for bids, but two, the contractors know exactly what they got to get, right? Like they know what they're going to get. Now there are, I've heard concerns, will contractors say it's going to cost us more? Hey, I get that. I do get that, but time is money. And if it cuts down a 10-day window for you to get back a bid, it might be worth us paying a little bit more. All right. Because on some case, I'm probably reducing program support because we don't have to go through the bidding process. So, you're going to maybe apples and oranges. I don't know. Anyway, that's something we're going to look at doing. All right. Is there anything else that you think you need as part of that state plan? Okay. All right. Next slide. Yep. Johnny, this is you.
So, like Kelly said, we're proceeding as if we're going to get something from DOE in the near future. So, we went ahead and created the WX27 application, and it is live as of noon today. So you'll be able to go into UFA and access it kind of normal like what you did last year. If you don't complete it, you will not get funding. So I encourage you all to complete it. The deadline for it is Friday, March 13th. So it's given you 3 weeks or 4 weeks, somewhere in that range. Yeah, just it'll, like I said, it'll be live after our meeting today. So encourage y'all to get it completed and submitted.
Perfect. Thank you, Johnny.
Mhm.
All right, so some other updates. I think Johnny has this one too.
Yeah, so I already trying to plan the next quarterly admin TA meeting. Got it scheduled for April 23rd, starting at 10. I'll be sending an invite out this afternoon to everybody. So, just giving you a heads up on that. And then the quarterly weatherization draw are due no later than April's actually 22nd, not the 17th. this is another slide that didn't update for me, but
It
it'll be,
changed.
yeah, so it'll be April 22nd when the quarterly weatherization draws are due. And I'll update that in the slides before we post it on the partner portal. So that's it for my updates, Kelly.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Next slide. Legislative update. So I always try to give you all a good picture about what's going on in Congress right now with weatherization. So HB 1355, which reauthorizes weatherization, and it raises the ACPU to $12,000, passed through the Energy Subcommittee. It passed through the Energy Subcommittee, but they removed weatherization ready. So we were asking in that bill, which was sponsored by Representative Tonko out of New York, that bill was asking for weatherization ready to be authorized for the first time. And some of the congressmen some of the representatives had some a little angst about authorizing something for the first time. And I think they do view that there might be some other programs available that could do weatherization ready activities so that all the money that they're appropriating to weatherization is just for energy measures. Now, we in the practice of weatherization and out in the field understand that finding another program or another funding stream to work on deferrals is very difficult. It is it's not always available to everybody or all subgrantees. So, but that is what's happened. That it passed through without weatherization ready. But the good news is it passed through with a reauthorization of weatherization assistance program through, I think the date is 2030, and an average cost per unit raised at $12,000. So that's really good news to hear, for sure. What happens next with that bill in the House is 2 weeks ago, I met with Representative Guthrie's office with Ann Dial, who is the lobbyist for NASCAST, and they reported that they are going to seek a suspension for that bill. And I'm going to give you my layman's terms of what that means. It's kind of a faster path to get it to a floor vote. So it didn't look like they were going to put any pressure on Representative Mike Johnson to call for it to vote, but with a suspension, it would kind of have a faster path to get there because apparently there's a lot of forms that have to be filed to get it to that floor vote, and a suspension will help bypass some of that. So I wanted to let you know that. So good news coming out of that bill. Then we have S2570 and S1342. So these are two Senate bills. S1342 actually authorizes weatherization ready for the first time and raises the ACPU to $15,000. So that's the Senate bill 1342, and then Senate Bill 2570 reauthorizes weatherization assistance programs. So those two bills together, they're both sponsored by, well, I think the first S1342 was sponsored by Kuntz and Collins, so it's a bipartisan sponsored bill. S2570, I think, was sponsored maybe by Murkowski, but has bipartisan sign on. So both bills are bipartisan. Both bills are a good thing. They have to get through the Energy Committee at the Senate level. So that's kind of where that one is. But if the House bill will go to a floor vote, then it will get kicked to the Senate for vote. So then they can like start shoring up what language they're going to use in those bills. So still some hurdles, but this is the farthest we've gotten weatherization legislation, especially with an ACPU increase, since I think Mark and I both have been working in weatherization, so over 10 years. So it's really good news. Are there any questions about what's going on nationally and in Congress with weatherization? Of course, the appropriations went through with the House and the Senate. And just note, that the appropriations for weatherization went through on the Senate side with language in it that said that they couldn't cap indirect cost rates plus fringe benefits. So just an FYI on that. And another update on that piece with the cap on indirect cost rate plus fringe. There was, of course, Kentucky did join a lawsuit. The judge came back and said to DOE, you can't do that. So DOE has gone in and removed that out of our special terms and conditions for Kentucky. Anybody that was involved in the lawsuit got removed from their special terms and conditions. Other states just have to ask for it and they can get that removed as well. But that has gone into effect. But I have heard that DOE is appealing or posted an appeal, but I don't know what's happened with that. So that's where that is. Questions? I also met with Rand Paul's office yesterday because he has in the past been someone that kept that Senate bill from going to vote on the floor. And so we were able to had the opportunity to meet with one of his staffers in his office with Andal yesterday. And just to explain weatherization and what it does in the state of Kentucky. Fortunately for us, the staffer was from Kentucky, so she really understands kind of like our lay of the land and our geography and how things work and the disasters that we faced and what we kind of face with energy efficiency in the state. So that was really kind of a nice to have because you don't always get that out of the staffers that they're actually from your state. So it was a really good opportunity. I think the meeting went really well. She seemed to be here like very receptive to the story that we were telling and the education that we did from the state, from Kentucky Housing's perspective. So that's good news. All right. Okay, next slide. I think we might be at the end. Okay, we are at the end. So we've been going for about an hour and a half. I know we've had some questions in the chat. So I'm going to go look and see if we have anything that we did not address. Kent wanted to see the map again. So Patty, could you go back to the map? Okay, we're going back to the map. And then I think we've gotten everything else. Okay, so here's the map again. If you all are seeing discrepancies, get with Patty so we can check the data. And then let's see, Dwayne from KCOC. What were his complaints with weatherization legislation? Did you grease any palms? Sometimes it's all about the money. We did not grease any palms. We just, were positive and uplifting. We did use a lot of success stories out of the Bowling Green area, which of course is Brett Guthrie's region. We had some also from like Litchfield, like some of those some success stories out of his region, Brett Guthrie. So that's what we used also with Rand Paul's office, because as you know, Rand Paul does reside in Bowling Green. So I thought those might touch home a little bit more. So we did use a lot of those success stories, which are really telling. Some of those success stories are, people's utility bills reducing more than $200 and $300 a month, and they're elderly on fixed incomes. So those are some really good things to share. Also, just a note for you all, some of the things we share, 71% of our clients in weatherization are elderly. We do mostly electric, which you guys knew, but we have 12% natural gas and 1% propane. So we do also try to drive home, we don't really care what kind of energy source you have. We are about trying to make the more energy efficient, or that we're not doing fuel switching, which is kind of some myths that lie with congressmen. As far as Rand Paul's hiccups on why he kept that legislation from going through in the past, I don't really know. We didn't really address those. We just really I stuck to the education piece of what weatherization looks like in Kentucky, and then the lobbyists stuck to here's what the current bills are about. So, all right. Again, just to FYI, your red counties are counties that did not have any job completions in 2025. And this is really just to give you an idea of where you might like need to go to some of those CSBG workers and ask them to really hone in on some applications for you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you all so much for your time. Go produce, produce, produce. I hope that I've been a bit of a job completion cheerleader today. And if I could have, if I had had time to come up with a cheer, I probably would have next time. Next time we'll do a job completion cheer. All right, so go, 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 go team, go weatherization. You all do fabulous work. Help us sell it. We are selling it with your congressman. It's telling it, the work that you have done and the success stories have been amazing. Those are the stories we share with them. They really do like to hear those stories. Keep those coming our way. But really, the name of the game right now is we've got to have a lot of job production and get those ACPUs down. Go team. All right. Thanks, everyone.